Ladies and gentlemen, Veiledshot is on this video. It is his last day, his final day as the boat captain. You can see he is once again there in his favorite farming spot, farming away. How are you doing today, Veil?
I'm doing pretty good. A little emotional, honestly, because I just posted that video. It's like 4 hours later or whatever.
I got about halfway through watching it. We'll have a link pinned. You can go watch it. Basically, Veiledshot is leaving Diablo Immortal, or taking, it said taking a break, but is it taking a break or is it taking a extended break? Well, you know, what's happening here?
Well, I will say I'm definitely taking a break. I'm jumping into D3. So for the next like 3 weeks, 4 weeks for sure, I'm going to be doing like D3 content and like doing the season, right? And then after that, we'll see if there's like a new update that's really cool in Diablo Immortal. I might make a video about it. And if it's really good, maybe I'll drop a couple videos playing the game. But I think that we're going to be interspersing like D3 content with maybe Diablo Immortal content if there's a really good update. But yeah, I mean, realistically, D4 is on the horizon, and that's the goal, right? We're staying true, putting up the sails, and
so you're preparing for D4 by playing D3 then? Is that what I'm hearing here? You're going D3
Absolutely.
And then D4 comes out, and there's a new season. You said there's a new season coming out for D3 that you're really excited by. What's going on with the new season?
So if you've seen any D4 content out there, you might have noticed that they've kind of like shown screenshots of the like leaked, I guess you could say, screenshots of the skill tree where it's like that node thing where you're going down. Yep. Well, they've kind of added something similar, except it's like a general utility node in season 28 for Diablo 3. And it's basically TLDR, you're like the most broken you've ever been. The leveling experience is the quickest it's ever been. You just are like basically super mega overpowered, and everyone's basically saying like, oh, they're giving one last hurrah for D4 in D3.
So it's turbo mode. It's turbo mode activated for a season for fun of it, because it's the season before D4, and they're kind of having their last kicks or whatever you say. Okay, and I don't think D3 is shutting down its servers though when D4 comes out, from what I understand, right? They're keeping D3 online, but I'm assuming everyone that's playing D3 is gonna go play D4 is kind of the concept here. And you're going to be making content on D3 then?
Yeah, so starting tomorrow, well, whenever the day after I posted my video, I'm going to be putting my first D3 video, because I've actually spent the PTR, the basically the public test realm, or the beta for the season 28 has been out for, well, it actually just ended, but it was out for about 4 or 5 days, or at least from when I played it. And I played about 40 or 50 hours of D3 during that time. So I absolutely mega grinded it. I did like speed runs to 70. I was doing like testing out some builds and such. I was actually having a really good time. So I actually have a lot of like B-roll and stuff for that. So we're going to be putting out videos for that.
Okay, so what class are you going to play in D3 then?
All right, get ready for this, guys. I made one video about the Necro, basically, but I'm actually like playing so much Necro on D3. What's funny about it is your most hated thing in Diablo Immortal, Corpse Explosion, is the most broken ability for leveling in D3. It is just ridiculously strong.
They were recently asking for feedback, and Corpse Explosion was one of the class balance change feedbacks I sent, where it's like, it doesn't really make much sense in Diablo Immortal. Like, it's arguably maybe the most thematic move of all of Diablo. Like, it's the Necromancer, and I mean, that or what, like the Crusader Hammer's horse. I mean, I don't know. Corpse Explosion seems like thematically, from just the Diablo in general, the game, it seems pretty on par. So I was always kind of disappointed that it didn't really do anything in Immortal, more or less. But so D3, when does the season start then?
So there's no confirmed dates, you know, Blizzard and their, well, a little keeping us on our toes, but it's supposed to be, usually it's around 2 weeks after the PTR ended. So we're looking at February 20, around actually the same time the normal gem update will drop, is like February 22nd, 23rd, 24th, around that time is kind of what it's expected, I believe. So
let's talk a little bit about Immortal then, and your reasons for moving on. Were the most recent updates not doing it for you? Do you have any really, I know you probably have your 35-minute video I got about halfway through before I called you, where you kind of break down all the nuances, so I won't make you repeat yourself. But if you really had to say, like, what's your primary driving factor? Is it more so that you're excited for D3 and you just really want to play D3? Is it that you have these problems with Immortal? Where's it coming from?
So I'll say, I think there's really like, if I were to sum it up, I would have to say 2 different things. The first thing is like, I'm sure a lot of people understand there's like the realistic aspect of like doing YouTube. And honestly, if you're just not excited about a game, it kind of starts to seep through after a little while. And I feel like literally over the past like 3 or 4 days, that's kind of what was happening to me. And at the same time, I'm pretty excited about Diablo 3. And then the audience in Diablo 3 is actually a lot larger than Diablo Immortal. And so like that's like the realistic aspect. But in terms of like my personal enjoyment of the game and what I was feeling, there's a few things that started to compound. Like obviously I've always been a little irritated about how they're kind of wishy-washy on their update schedule. Like they plan something and then they kind of didn't really follow through on it. Not to say that they didn't have great updates, because I still believe that like the December update was a really good update. But then I started to think about it. I'm like, what did we really get? Like we never go back to Storm Point. The farming locations over there weren't that great. They were just average in terms of the grand scheme of the game. The only new thing that I've been repeatedly doing is Heliquary. That's the rewarding thing. And then I started to think about all these different things. And it's like, even the essence extraction system, which was my personal favorite update, it was nothing exciting. It was like, okay, here's more damage. I was hoping for like extra charges on abilities so you could start running, I don't know, like Chakram Demon Hunter with like 20 Chakrams, something like that. Something crazy. I was hoping to get something really cool, or like multiple beams on the wizard, or like, I don't know, you could expand your skeleton army for the Necro by like 20 skeletons, like something crazy.
You want to see some pop-offs happen, yeah.
Exactly. And all we got was damage numbers and cooldown reduction. And then I kept thinking about it, and then we reached Hell 8 or Hell 7, finally came around, and then immediately I'm able to do Hell 8, and I'm like, oh dang, I basically can't progress for like 2 months. Like that's just what happens, right? Those are the Hell difficulties. Kind of once you reach that next Hell difficulties, it catapults your CR or your combat rating into the next difficulty, and then you start pre-farming. So basically, you're going to sit there pre-farming Hell 8 if you want to for a undisclosed amount of time, and then you're just gonna get to Hell 8, and then we're kind of again in the same position that we were before. So I was like, even if I were to take a break, I could literally come back a month from now, be let's say 2 weeks away from Hell 8, immediately jump into Hell 8 and be caught up to some people in terms of combat rating within literally a couple days. It's really not that big of a deal.
There's only been one time I've ever felt not having, or 2 times I've ever felt I didn't have enough combat rating. Right after a new Hell difficulty comes out and I'm trying to do dungeons. It's the only time. Or the Heliquaries when we're pushing, for some reason, we're doing like way.
Yeah.
So in those 2 circumstances, I have felt like, wow, I wish I had 2,000 more combat rating. Other than that, I have literally never felt, oh, I wish I had more combat rating in almost any circumstance, because the reality is combat rating's really not the problem with the game. You can get the combat rating. And it's I could remove all of my gems and I'm going to have enough combat rating for all of the content in the game. Like, combat rating is the stat that matters the most, and it's also something that you can acquire, like you're saying, very quickly after each new Hell difficulty. It seems to me that I don't know if they didn't get the difficulty scaling right, or if that's why they were trying to rebalance it. I don't know if it's the fact that combat rating itself is a very limiting mechanic, so it kind of puts them into a corner. I don't know if it's the fact we don't have seasons, but whatever it is, with the way it is with this combat rating with the PvE, your PvE always feels the same almost from day one to the day you quit. Like, it feels like the same day in PvE.
Yeah, and as you're saying about the Heliquary and how we're always behind, I mean, in our warband, we actually have some people that are like, I think he's 6.5K residents, maybe 7K residents. Yeah. And so I started to look at like these people in our warband, and I'm like, I could sit here and grind my days away and keep up with them in terms of grind, but I would still always be like 500, 600, 700 combat rating below. So it's like, even if I were to grind it out, I would still always be behind in the Heliquaries. So I felt like, okay, well, I can't really catch up to them. Like, it's just not possible in terms of combat rating. So like, that's not really a viable thing to push for. And so then it becomes, okay, if combat rating is like the name of the game in PvE, and it's not really changing, as you're saying, which I completely agree with, it's all about PvP, right? That's like the name of the game.
PvP is the variability in it, because PvE is the static gameplay. So if PvP is the variability, then you would assume that it would also hopefully be a fun part of the game too, because typically the things that aren't the same thing you're doing all the time, You know, no, it's fun. I mean, that's why rune crafting and agility are some of the least favorite skills in games like RuneScape, is because people don't want to do the same circular pattern over and over and over and over and over again. Effectively, Diablo more, though, is it's got everybody training agility. Like the entire time you're playing the game, you're running in a circle. That's what it feels like to me. And I think it's obvious when you do that and you base the whole game around combat rating, then eventually we're going to get in circumstances like this where people are going to get annoyed. I actually don't think the core of the game is that bad. I think we probably agree on this, where it's like the core of the game is actually fairly fun. Like they have a lot of really good things in the game and they seem to be making the game better, but it fails to reclaim people's attention once it spans, because they don't have things like season, or they don't have like these big meaningful changes. So every time an update comes out, people like me or people like you will have made videos about the update. But how can we grab people to come back to the game and be like, oh, you're really going to be excited by this one? Essence Mastery. Farm the same legendaries again and get 30% more damage, which for minions you're literally already one-shotting. Like, it doesn't really change anything in the game. You're effectively doing the same thing. And I see some counter arguments that are like, hey, well, Diablo's about grinding. It's all about the grind. And, you know, I would argue, yes, it is, but typically the grind comes with progression that is meaningful outside of a combat rating stat. But I don't know how you feel about Diablo's a grind game, and if you go from Diablo Immortal and you have these problems you're mentioning anymore, though, if you go to D3, aren't you just going to be grinding again? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, so this is definitely 100% true. And I think I would take the premise that Diablo is a grinding game, and I think you could apply it to literally every game in the Diablo series. The grind isn't the problem. It's, to me, and I've said this before, I think Diablo Immortal, personally, I would actually really enjoy seasons in Diablo Immortal with like some sort of progression. But in Diablo 3, right, we're talking about a new season. Like, we're talking about a season that I have not participated in terms of the live servers. So that's one thing. Second thing is I'm a pretty competitive person. I mean, I said in my video, or like the most fun I had was like that first month when you, myself, Chosen, we were pushing for Immortal, and we managed to do it literally all on our own. Like, we did it obviously with the community, but it was all 3-hour clans. We did it like against the whole server. Like, I enjoyed that aspect, and playing like a hardcore character on Diablo 3 where like death is permanent. You know, I'm running around and I'm like on my toes all the time, little adrenaline pumping every single time I log in. Like, that's like exciting. But not only that, and I think this is the key component, which is I have to change my build to push harder content. It's not just combat rating capped. So if I'm going to go ahead and start the game, I might pick a Necro because it's the fastest leveling. But then I'll swap to a Demon Hunter because the Demon Hunter is actually the fastest farmer for Torment 16, which is the highest difficulty for farming, you know, some certain item.
Are you trying to tell me that D3 doesn't feel like you're playing an idle, you know, mobile game where you're progressing in a linear path? It feels like there's
crazy, right?
Some MMO, you know, kind of variability aspect to it. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, so definitely, if you are a tryhard, if you are someone that enjoys like min-maxing, then D3 has a lot of options for you, at least for the first month. Because as you're saying, every game ends up in the same pattern. To be honest, almost every game, it's just when does it do that, where it ends up being really repetitive. And Diablo 3, I would say for the first month, it's really exciting. It's really new. It's a lot of progression. And then after that, you're at the point where it's like, okay, now you're grinding 100 more of the same, you know, rift, which is basically like running in a circle until you can get to the next level up. And so it does end up being similar in that regard. But the big difference is that I get to experience all these classes and they're all providing something I get to experience with all these different builds. And I feel like there's a lot more build variety in this game compared to Diablo Immortal because there's not really a level of difficulty in Immortal. And to be fair, I don't actually think Diablo 3 is that difficult. It's all about if you want to push hard, then it becomes you have to min-max. Whereas in Immortal, yeah, you can min-max, but it's like instead of killing it in like 1 second, you kill it in like 0.9 seconds.
One other core difference that I think we would agree on too is that Diablo Immortal is not a competitive PvE game. It is a competitive PvP game. There is no, in fact, I don't argue there's any aspects in PvE that are literally competitive at all because of the combat rating thing. And I think, honestly, I think the people who are trying to be like, oh, I'm so much better at PvE because of this and this build and this thing, I think it's all copium. I think it's like, look, it's based upon combat rating and resonance. It's like pretty much that simple and how good your stats are. And you build your character up, you're going to do better because you're going to push farther in your challenge rifts. And congratulations, you got 10,000 gold as a reward. No one cares, basically.
That's when you mentioned challenge rift, that's something that I always say to people. I'm like, all right, guys, let me just take a second. Let's think through this. What are we doing here? We're grinding 10 hours a day. Then we go ahead and do a challenge rift. Okay, great. You could do one more challenge rift level. What are you getting? An upgrade for your set item, right? What does that give you? More combat rating.
Yeah,
that's all you're getting.
Well, and not only that, but it's like if you want to place on the leaderboard, my point here in particular is about the competition aspect, where it's like Diablo 3 is a Diablo game. People want the Diablo game, and Diablo has always been a PvE competition. I know there's PvP in some of the other Diablo games. I'm aware of this, but Diablo is mostly about PvE-wise, how far can I progress? Diablo Immortal really put the focus on your power to only matter in PvP, where it's like, we're going to take this game that's PvE grind focus, where you get stronger and stronger and stronger in PvE, and we're going to dump all of that power into PvP. And even though it's 66% gutted, the battlegrounds is the only part where really your power really matters. Because in PvE, you're mostly one-shotting the waves. If you're not, well, as soon as you have the combat rating, you will. And then everything else, people are either AFKing or botting in Kiki's Rapids in order to set craft their pieces anyway. So I don't necessarily find any competition in the PvE remotely. So we have a game that's mostly originally has fans of PvE competition transferred over to PvP, and then everyone's surprised that, you know, at the end people get bored of the competition because the whole grind is really for the PvE. It doesn't make sense is what I'm saying. Whereas Diablo 3 is actually a Diablo game focused on the PvE competition side, and maybe that's why you're more excited by it.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. You actually make a good point. And I didn't really think about this. In regards to Diablo Immortal, as you're saying, it's all focuses on PvP. And generally, I actually don't even particularly like PvP in games. But even more so than that, it's exacerbated by the fact that it is pay to win. And so like that takes more of the enjoyment out from PvP for me.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, like, I want to play like, I don't know, Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, or RuneScape, these MMOs or these RPGs. I play them and I do the raids. I go ahead and do the dungeons. I'm trying to speedrun the dungeons. That's my enjoyment factor, and then I get rewarded for that. And so that's why Diablo 3 is a little bit more in the wheelhouse, because I'm trying to like speedrun and I'm trying to do as fast as possible, get the best loot. Whereas in Immortal, there really isn't much room for you to improve yourself in PvE. And as the picture beside me says, I just sit in a place the same 4 abilities, and that's my PvE experience. I'm ship farming all day. You know, that's the most efficient thing for me to do, because I edit videos and now I can play 8 hours a day or whatever. So yeah, there's just isn't really, as you say, that competitive reason to push in PvE, because it really is just very easy.
There's no challenging PvE content in the game entirely, in my opinion. There's only combat rating, and maybe I'm wrong, and people are gonna be like, you have 3,000 resonance, you don't know the meaning of difficulty. I've never heard anyone actually say they had a really hard time in any of the content. I've never heard someone be like, man, it took me a long time to clear this boss fight. Maybe the first time you clear, like through Skarn, I know that first fight can be kind of difficult. People were dying on that the first month. But other than that, I've never heard anyone complain about any of the PvE difficulty in this game in particular, especially when you have moves that will like straight up make you immune to damage, where it's like, oh, I get immune to damage 5 times, so I can ignore the boss mechanics anyway. And then if you have the combat rating, the boss mechanics typically don't one-shot you anyway, unless you're standing like in the bats on some of these Helicore bosses, like you're going to be totally fine. But anyway, not to double down on just that point forever, but I thought it was... it's a point I've been thinking about. It's like, why is so many people enjoy these Diablo games that have competition in them, but then I realized that the leaderboards are totally different. Like we have PvP leaderboard. Even the Immortal versus the Shadow system is all PvP based. You know what I mean?
And I think I said this in your video earlier today, where we were talking about all the patch, we had all the content creators together. But I feel like when you're playing Diablo 3, when you're in that first week or two, like every single legendary is like, is that an upgrade? Like, did that improve my character? I'm dropping like 6 set items, and I'm like salvaging those set items and using those to progress my character. Each thing that you drop is like a meaningful thing. And that reward aspect, that me going into a dungeon and being like, dang, I don't know what I'm going to get here, but it could be good. That reward feeling is never in Diablo Immortal. Whether you're number one in PvP, literally rank 1, you're getting 80 Reforged Stones, which I don't need anymore because I've done all the min-maxing on that. Or you're rank 1 in Challengers where you're getting 500 hilts, or you're, whatever you're doing. Immortals, guess what?
I was the literal Immortal, and there was, I mean, the coolest thing about being the Immortal was that the first like 4 hours or whatever, where you get the 100% Magic Find bonus or 400% when you stack or whatever, that was it. Like, that was the coolest part about being the literal Immortal. You get the statue, you get to play as the guy on defense, which doesn't really matter. You're just running the whole time anyway. It's not very exciting. So when you realize that, it was I think you made the good point about just things aren't really as rewarding, but I really don't want to just dunk on the game forever, because I know you're more excited about D3 than you are mad at Immortal, it sounds like. So I don't want to turn something that's kind of more positive into something that's more negative. So give me 2 good reasons you're excited for the D3 season before I let you go. What are 2 things you're excited for about it?
Well, first off, I get to run around and cosplay as Darth for a little bit, play some Necro.
All right.
I honestly, the thing that I really enjoy about that is that I feel like each build is so different and actually like fun to play. And I feel like I don't have that in Diablo Immortal, and I think that's a lot of reason why people stay in one class. So I'm excited to actually just play all the classes all the time. I can instantly swap, and because all this stuff is class transferable, meaning your stash is account bound, your Paragon level is account bound. So I can literally just pick up a class, gear them up real quick, play with them, use their awesome builds to actually help progress my account. Like it's a conglomeration of 7 classes, and you're playing them all to help you progress your account versus like one at a time, and then you swap classes and you guys take a step back. I like the whole cross transferable thing. And then of course the other thing is I want to die. Like, I'm actually excited about the aspect of like, dang, I could die and I could lose this.
You're playing hard mode, like, hardcore then.
Yeah. I like hardcore. I think it's fun.
I like hardcore also.
Again, adrenaline pumping is something that I miss out of these games. You load up a RuneScape boss battle, and you're like, dang, am I gonna get like killed by a fireball or whatever? Like that type of feeling is missing in Diablo Immortal, and I'm excited to see that. I
kind of want to try this with you. I'm thinking about spinning up, because I have my main channel, the Darth Microtransaction channel, that I'm not uploading on daily. I got some free time. I'm thinking about spinning up and playing some hardcore D3 with you. Do you have a team that you're going to be playing with? I know Brad said he was going to play some D3.
Yeah, so we actually did season 27, like I think it was like 3 months ago at this point, or 4 months ago at this point, maybe even longer. But we were planning on doing season 28 together, just to put out some content and have some fun. So we have Chosen with us. I know that he's got a couple of friends because he's big into the Diablo 3 scene, right. So we might bring a couple other people. But there's actually some crazy strategies that you could actually really leverage group play. So like if you were to join, if Chosen was to join, we actually created a whole strategy where, I'm sitting there power leveling, and then he's running off to the side to actually gather resources. And then because you can swap to each other's maps, we're like swapping to each other's maps, like benefiting from each other. So yeah, we're actually trying to put together a couple of people that might be interested in just playing, not like super try hard. Obviously, I'm going to try hard. Right. It's not like we're going to get super mad if we mess up or anything. It's just that we're going to have a good time, try our absolute best, and push it as much as we possibly can. So yeah, yourself, Chosen, someone else who used to cover Diablo Immortal, and then perhaps maybe a couple other persons. You got me intrigued for the hardcore aspect. I think sounds kind of fun, because I played the hardcore Iron Man once. I didn't make it through the Alaskan ping, but I'm a fan of the hardcore as well. So, all right, we'll put a link over to the Veiledshot's channel. Any last words you want to say to I'm sure it's not our last collab of Diablo Immortal, but it's a break for you for now. So you got any words you want to say? You want a speech or anything? Speech. What you got for us? Speech. All right. I'll say this. I will forever miss saying "looking for one more" for ship farming. World chat. I will forever miss everyone calling me the boat captain, and the captain is here. I always love those memes. Honestly, on that note, I'll miss everyone. I had a lot of good times at Diablo Immortal. I'm sure I'll pop back to see out these updates, but definitely really enjoyed meeting you, meeting Chosen, meeting all the people out there. And yeah, I don't plan on leaving the scene or anything, but definitely going to miss, I guess, being immersed in everyone and hanging out with everyone in the game.
All right. Well, I guess we'll be watching the D3 content, and as soon as you die in hardcore, that's going to be a free video from me. So sounds good there. All right. All right, everybody. We'll have pinned comment with the channel. Go check out his. It's gonna be on the same channel as the Immortal channel is right now. He's gonna be uploading the D3 content. Check out that too. And depending upon if you guys want me to join, maybe I'll do some hardcore on D3 as well. That could be kind of fun. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.